All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Outpost Unknown YouTube channel. My name is Jeff. I'm joined by Steve
Hello.
and the disembodied voice of Sprackles.
Hello.
And we are once again journeying through our favorite late 90s, early 2000s cult sci-fi television program, Lexx. This show we call the Lexxorcists because we are exorcising our demons by watching Lexx from start to finish. We're in the middle of season 2. It's a 4-season show, so we're kind of like approaching the midway point. And I got to tell you guys, I'm not to bury the lead here, but I'm still super into it. It hasn't let me down yet. What do you guys think? You still into it?
I'm fully into it. I think
Yeah.
this first episode we talk about today might be the best so far.
Yeah, it's pretty.
It's the best in a string of winners.
It's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting. So we'll get into that. We are talking about Lexx season 2, episodes number 9 and 10.
Now, so unsettling.
Yeah, this picture is great. When I've been watching the show on Amazon Prime, it's on there. It has ads. You have to watch the freebie commercials, but it's fine. I'll tolerate it. But this is the image that they have when you search for Lexx on Amazon and you go to season 2. This is the big giant banner that fills your whole TV, and it's this image of our favorite robot head 790. But obviously something's up with him in this episode, and it's such an unsettling image. I think it's very cool. I think it looks rad. But it's also very gruesome and a little bit scary even. So this is the episode that we're talking about tonight. Episode number 9 is 791. And then episode 10 is called Wake the Dead. So 791, this is a wild one. It's funny, like we've talked offline about, like, every once in a while, it's kind of monster of the week stuff that's real goofy and silly, but every once in a while there's like an episode that kind of throws you for a loop. Like Stan's Trial, for example, is a little more dramatic, a little more like Star Trekky or something. And then this one, than the usual ones, but and then this one's a little bit different still. It just has a different feel from it. Maybe the director has something to do with that. We'll get into all of that. But Steve, you're the master of plot recaps. What is episode season 2, episode 9, 791? What's it all about?
So the crew detects a distress beacon, which 790 tries to just completely ignore.
That's a great joke. A great joke at the beginning of the episode. They're like, 790. What is that? And he's like, well, it's a distress beacon, but I always ignore those because they're nothing but trouble.
And he's right. He's absolutely correct.
It's so true.
But yeah, there's a distress beacon, and they're prepared to. Everyone is getting on board with the idea of just ignoring this distress beacon. But then Laika, who we haven't actually seen in her humanoid form in a bit, shows up and is like, "I'm hungry. Like, I don't want to eat any of you, but do what you got to do." And so they're like, "Shit. All right, let's go down to the distress beacon in case there's anything there." There's a talk about, like, what if we find people? Are we just going to, like, feed them to Laika? And they're like, well, you do what you got to do.
Yeah.
So, like, Laika says that she will eat animals first if there are animals,
right?
But she is prepared to eat people, and
including Stan and Zev if she needs to. She's very matter of fact about it.
The crew is kind of on board with it. Kai, the man of reason, is like, we should just abandon Laika on the planet. Leave. And Stan and Zev are like, wait, let's not abandon her until she tries to eat us. Then that's our line. But until she crosses it, we're still on board with Laika. And Stan is just like, absolutely not. I'm not going down there. Yeah. And so everyone else should leave them. So Kai, I don't even know why was Kai awake?
This is a point. Like, if we were going to be real sticklers for, like, internal logic and continuity and everything in this, because usually they have some lame excuse for waking up Kai, up to and including I was just bored. He's got this very limited supply of proto blood that's an on again off again plot element. So the idea is you should conserve it. Only wake him up when you really need it. And in this episode, he's just there. It looks like he woke himself up and he just showed up. Like, hey guys, what's going on? He just shows up.
Maybe they just, what we're supposed to assume is Zev really did go to Kai. It's like, hey Kai, bored again. And the creators of the show are just like, we've done that already. Like, people will just know that Zev is responsible for this. Anyway, so everyone minus Stan goes down to the planet. They tried to figure out the source of this distress beacon. It's just like a desolate wasteland planet. There is no life besides what is in this ship that they've encountered. And so when they get in there, they see a cyborg that is
Yeah.
missing its head.
Right.
And the cyborg is, as Kai puts it, like robot from like the lungs up, but human from the waist down. And so 790 is like, oh shit, like human body
Yeah.
with that's missing a head. So 790 immediately starts getting plans. He's going to take over this body so that he
He's
can,
just ogling it. I mean, it's a little
yeah, yeah,
gross.
yeah. But he's ogling it because he thinks, if I get a human body, like I can then
Right. Then
bang
I
Zev.
can get with Zev finally. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they leave 790 is like, oh yeah, just leave me here. I'll start investigating their systems and whatnot. He's not in. Kai and Zev think, all right, 790 is going to help us. He's going to open doors that are locked and whatnot.
Yeah.
790 has no interest in this ship. He just wants to take over this cyborg body. So 790 is left to his own devices, and eventually he gains control of the cyborg,
Hmm.
and manages to compel the cyborg body to put 790 on its shoulders, and so
Yeah.
790 now has a body.
And that's where
The problem is,
791 comes from. He's like,
yes,
I'm 791 now.
the one is the one for you, Zev, or something like that. So 790 now has a body.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Kai and Zev have gone off to investigate because Zev's bored. So they find like legally distinct face hugger eggs in the basement of this ship, and they open it, and surprisingly, there are no aliens in the pods. It's actually people in the pods, and and they say that they are prisoners, but they're innocent. They were actually like being transported somewhere, and some hijackers took over the ship and put them in these pods. And Kai's like, all right, well, let's get you out of the pod. And no, you can't take them out of the pod because the pods are actually life support systems.
Yeah.
All of these people have had their hearts cut out, and their hearts are being preserved in jars back on the bridge of the ship where 790 is.
It's very
And
elaborate way to like
yeah,
keep people hostage. I
yeah.
mean,
So these
sometimes you
people
like
are,
handcuff people or put them in a cage and like, no, we got to take your heart out.
yeah, we got to take your heart out, and then we have to put you in this pod and then hook tubes into your gaping chest wound so the alien face hugger egg can keep you alive, like you do. And so 790, or sorry, Zev and Kai are like, all right, let's rescue these people before Laika starts eating them, because Laika does go and start eating
Yeah.
people, and it's like a race against time, Zev and Kai, to protect these remaining pod people. So Zev goes back to start collecting hearts. Apparently, it's a very simple process to just plop the heart back
He
in
just
there.
kind of puts it in there.
Yeah, and so that's what they're gonna do. Zev is going to go collect the hearts while Kai is waking everyone up. Meanwhile, Laika is eating people that Kai has not gotten to yet. So good.
It's just like what order were you in line when you got in the pod? Like you might live. It just depends on which
nothing's labeled. Like
Yeah.
the logic that Zev applies is, well, this girl who we rescue first, well, she was first pod, therefore it makes sense that the heart is also the first heart. And they roll with it, and apparently they get it right eventually. But anyway, Zev goes back to the room with the hearts, and that's where 790 is. Well, 790 is now 791,
Mm-hmm.
and 791 is trying to put the moves on Zev, and Zev is she kind of goes back and forth between being into it and then not into it. She's very happy that now 790 has the parts that Zev is interested in,
Right.
but it's still fucking 790.
She's not repulsed by it. I mean, she's thinking about it.
She's thinking about it. Like 790 could talk her into this, or he could if the cyborg body wasn't like rebelling against him, and so he keeps like it's almost like he has a split personality now. He'll be 790 in one moment, and then like the killer cyborg in the next moment, and eventually Zev has to just like shut him down. Like she tries to help. 790 says, there's some cords in the back that I can't reach, plug them into my head, and she does that, and it fails, and it looks like 790 is dead. Zev takes a moment to contact Stan and say, hey, we found prisoners down here. One of them's a girl, and Stan's immediately like, oh, like, would she be grateful if we rescued her? Would she, do favors for me potentially if I brought her aboard the Lexx? And
God forbid you just
Zev
help
like,
someone,
Stan, Yeah, Stan is or Zev is just like, no, not now, Stan. Like we're not talking about this. I'm going back to help people. Well, 791 revives at this point, but it's not the 790 personality. It is the original personality of the cyborg, and
Yeah.
it projects a new face onto 790's like eye holes and mouth
Right.
holes. And it's like the eyes are
It's
like
awesome.
budgy and bloodshot, like the teeth are like kind of like mangled and sharpened. And the cyborg pretends to be Zev, and so
Yeah.
he calls Stanley and is like, "Oh, Stanley, everyone was super helpful or super grateful that we rescued them. It's just like one big goddamn orgy down here now. Come on down and stop me if you heard this one, guys. Stan is horny, and so he makes bad decisions." It's so he's like, yes, that sounds great, Zev. The person that was not interested in my bullshit in any way, shape, or form 10 seconds ago.
Hmm.
Now you're on board telling me to come in and join the orgy. And so Stan goes down to join this orgy. And then in comes Evil 791, who kidnaps Stan, forces him to dance, tries
Yeah.
to assault him in various ways, and he gives Stan like the backstory. And the story is like he was once a man that had like certain urges that he couldn't control, and so they turned him into a cyborg to try to fix it. Well, being a cyborg only made it worse, and so
Hmm.
he is this um he's going to do bad things to Stan. And so Stan is just running for his life throughout this crash ship trying to get away. And the whole time, the evil 791 cyborg is like yelling these terrible things. Like at one point when he catches Stan, he's like, one, spread him, two, you're
Yeah.
dead, or something like that. He yells at Stan like, I can smell your funk and I'm gonna bury my face in
It's
it.
so bad.
Awful. So Stan is being chased by this robot that wants to sexually assault him. Meanwhile, Kai and Zev have rescued the one pod girl, and apparently she's the only
Yeah.
one that's left. And of course, Pod Girl, who claimed to be innocent and it was just, a kidnapping victim, she lied. She
Hmm.
is actually like from some warrior race that does nothing but kill people, and so she escapes and tries to fly away in a moth, but Laika eats her, and then apparently returns the moth to the surface. Uh, the robot is going to spend when the pod girl escapes, it triggers like a self-destruct program on the ship.
Yeah.
And so everyone's trying to escape, but the killer robot catches Stan and is like, or Stan tries to plead his case, like, we're gonna die if we stay here. We have to leave. And he's like, I don't care. Time for a quickie. And just before he is about to do terrible things to Stan, Kai comes in and uses his little like arm razor wire thingy to knock 790's head off of the cyborg, thus freeing 790 from the cyborg's innocence. And then the heroes, they all have an uncomfortable moth ride back to the Lexx. And
Yeah.
790 is like, let's never talk about this again. And 790 was occasionally like getting control of the cyborg, like
Right.
mid doing bad things to Stan. And he's like, Stan, this is the worst. He's like,
Yeah.
Stan, this is the like excruciating for me. I don't want to do this. But yeah, eventually everyone goes back to the Lexx in an uncomfortable silence, and Stan and 790 both kind of agree to just never talk about this again.
Yeah.
This episode is hilarious and problematic and unnerving at times, and
Yeah.
it's amazing.
It has tonally. It feels kind of distinct. It feels like something's going on with the tone and the way it's shot and everything. Quick side note: I want to shout out lex.fandom.com. This wiki. I go here for like all these pictures of the Lexx and stuff. It's great, great website. But I noticed in the opening credits of this that it was directed by a guy named Jörg Buttgereit, which is I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's a German individual, and I recognize the name because I'm one of these sick freak horror movie fans, so I know who Jörg Buttgereit is. He is famous, or infamous rather, for making a movie called Nekromantik, and then also Necromantic 2, of course, and Der Toad's King is another one. Necromantic is this infamous movie. There's actually recently was if you're a Joe Bob Briggs fan, he did an episode on Necromantic on Shudder on the last drive-in, which is pretty interesting. But it's just what it sounds like. It's some gross out movie about a couple who fall in love and become obsessed with a corpse. Like the guy works at a morgue or something, and he brings a corpse home, and him and his lady fair fall in love with this corpse, and that becomes like their whole thing. But so Jörg Buttgereit is like an actual guy he's a filmmaker with certainly a vision regardless of what you may or may not think of it. He's got like an aesthetic vision for what he wants to make. And so like you give him an opportunity to make a TV show like Lexx. And I think it comes through that he's like a filmmaker with a voice or like a point of view or something. Cause it just felt like you were in the hands of a filmmaker in this episode to me, like the way he chose to shoot everything. It does come across as a little bit more artsy than the average, made for TV sci-fi show. I think I don't want to be like faking like I'm some sort of intellectual film student or whatever, but I do think it kind of comes across that way. Sprackles, what do you think?
Yeah, my favorite thing about this quote is almost every minute there is one of the best lines of all of Lexx throughout this entire episode, and it's just like quotable line after another, and there's just so many of them. And I'm just going through the Nekromantik quotes on IMDb, and it's the same. So you can kind of tell like they were really collaborating on this one, and there's a lot of good content. But yeah, it's a good episode. I like that nothing changes. They don't learn anything, and they go right back to it in the next episode.
That's so funny. That's so great. That's so great.
Quo is maintained in like nearly every episode of the Lexx.
That's so good. Like most shows, like you have a little lesson, like, you watch Star Trek and at the end of it, they learned something, but not Lexx necessarily. So yeah, I found the Joe Bob. If you're a Shudder fan, it's Joe Bob's Vicious Vegas Valentine. And he has an episode. I'm really surprised because I think of Nekromantik by Jörg Buttgereit as the type of thing that is it's just a little too far out there for TV, you know what I mean? So it's the sort of thing that you get in a sleazy DVD that you had to mail order. So I'm always a little surprised when things like that turn up on TV. And I know Shudder's not TV, but like, a widely distributed thing like that. So good episode. And if you're interested in this and you're a genre fan, hey, go investigate the work of Jörg Buttgereit, because he's got some films, man. Next up is season 2, episode number 10, which is entitled "Wake the Dead." And so this one is much. If the previous one, 791, was kind of artsy fartsy or a little more filmic, this one is a little bit back to being wacky. In my opinion, it's a little wackier. So Steve, what happens in Wake the Dead?
So we start out with like a group of, I don't know, space teenagers.
Yeah, and neutrinos.
Yeah, that's a good reference. Yeah, they are like them. They are going to a party at some camp, and the party is 2 days away. And of course, you can't just, exist for 2 days. And so they are trying to put themselves in like cryopods. Mm-hmm. And they are attempting to set some sort of some automated like wake up function. Like they don't, they want the computer to automatically wake them from cryo sleep in 2 days. Their attempts fail because like 287 years go by, right? And Zev goes to rescue them, wakes them up, brings them back on board, and so now we've got a bunch of teenagers running around the Lexx. And I don't know who were these people's names, or what are their names?
They had ridiculous names. There was one guy I remember named Enox, because they say it like 20 times. They say the word Enox. When they're talking to the guy.
The main guy?
He's this guy.
So Enox is the main guy.
Yeah. So right. Enox, and then the other ones are Gibble, Kanana, Laline, and Tad. I'm
not going to remember any of those.
Yeah, there's no reason to.
Yeah, so it's
Oh,
like the Enix and Lean or whatever. Like I remember them. I remember Gibble's name. It's like the goody two shoes girl and her boyfriend. Like I don't remember their name at all.
yeah.
Anyways, so now there are 5 new people on the Lex, and they are getting the grand tour. And they go into Kai's room and they immediately start fucking with Kai at his
Yeah.
cryopod or whatever.
It's just
And
outrageous. I mean, I have kids and they're like they're not well behaved sometimes. You take your kids somewhere and they're like misbehaving, you're really embarrassed, but like these guys are just out of hand.
yeah, they are not listening to anything. They want to wake up Kai and just fuck with them because I guess it's cool to have a friendly-ish assassin. They start doing drugs on the ship, and then like everyone kind of like I don't know goes to do their own thing. Like was it Gibble? Is that the guy's name?
Yeah.
Yeah, Gibble is we'll call him a big boned person.
Yeah.
And because of that, he is, like frequently the butt of everyone's jokes. He's bullied by everyone else.
Everyone's picking on the poor guy. He seems kind of he seems good natured.
Yeah, it was his like party bus or like his dad's party bus or whatever that they tried to try to put themselves into cryo sleep and completely botch that. But he's kind of just he gets bullied. There's the goody two shoes girl and her boyfriend, and they are or he is upset because I guess she is a virgin and he wants to get laid and it's not happening. And the two that actually like contribute to the story in the niche fashion are Enix and Liline. Enix obviously or Enix is that the guy's name?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
Whatever.
something like that. Square Enix.
Yeah, Square Enix is he wants to bang Zev and Zev is not interested. Which is shocking because Zev has previously stated that she's got like the world's craziest libido for everyone but Stan.
Right.
And now there are people that are not Stan here and she's not interested. Liline is interested in Stan. And that's a problem because Enix and Liline appear to be like an item of some sort, and so they're both after other people. But Zev and Stan, to their credit, maybe they're both like, no, you're basically children. Like, stay away from us.
Yeah,
like, neither Stan or Zev want anything to do with it.
We were talking about that earlier. Like, it's so funny because like usually Stan is just completely governed by his crotch and chasing anything, and get himself into dangerous situations for no other reason than he's horny. But in this episode, like Zev and Stan both surprising restraint. They're just like, no, we're not going to mess around with these young people. This is weird. No, get away from us, you kids. I admire Stan's and Zev's both restraint.
Yep. So Square Enix, when he gets shot down by Zev, he goes back to Liline. His backup plan of Liline is like, absolutely not. You tried to put the moves on Zev right in front of me.
Yeah.
I'm not interested. And so Square Enix is just angry now, and so he goes back to continue fucking with Kai.
Yeah.
And so he's just like smashing buttons on the little control panel that controls Kai's cryopod or whatever. And the whole time he's like, this is bullshit. I hate all these people. Assassin dude, you should kill them. You should kill some of them slow and some of them fast. Basically, Kai, come be a slasher horror movie villain. And then Stan shows up and chastises them and pulls them away. But then Kai wakes up and his eyes are these like creepy, like sickly green color. And it turns out that Kai accepted the Square Enix guy's commands. And so Kai goes around and starts killing people. He first, the goody two-shoe girl's boyfriend is taking a crap on the Lexx toilets.
Oh man, I gotta see if I can
actually just like.
I gotta see if I can find a picture of the Lexx toilet
because
they're insane.
Giant tongues coming out of them, and Zev warns them, like, eventually you'll get used to the sensation. And so Kai, like, I guess, drowns him in the toilet, and then he goes to kill Gibble. And Gibble is, he's a big dude. He is, eating away his feelings. And he's got just a bowl of slop, and Kai reaches his hand through the bottom of the bowl and pulls Gibble's face into this green slop and I guess drowns him in his food, and then he strings up his corpse like up in the ceiling above them, which we don't actually see. But at various points, people are walking under the Gibble corpse, and just chunks of grossness are falling out. Um, then Kai eventually I mean it's a slasher movie. Kai just stalks everyone around the ship and begins killing everyone. He kills Square Enix. At one point, like the only people left are Stan, Zev, and the Goody Two Shoes girl. And Lileen. Lileen was going to go bang Stan, but she didn't want to bang him until she had a shower, and so Kai kills her in the shower in stereotypical slasher movie fashion. So, anyways, the final three are Stan, Zev, and Lileen, Stan, Zev, and the Goody Two Shoes girl. And Zev says to Stan and Goody girl, he can't chase all of us, so split up. Like Stan, you take her and get to the moth and to escape, and Zev is going to go do her own thing. They're actually like going to abandon the Lexx. They're like, we can't stop Kai. There's no way for us to kill him. The only thing we can do is abandon ship. And so Stan and Goody Two Shoes girl get to a moth, and Stan puts her in the moth and tells her to leave, and she's like, I'm not going without you, I'm afraid. And Stan is like, I'm not leaving without Zev. So once again, like, Stan has like a rare moment of not being a complete douchebag coward, and I feel like these moments are happening much more frequently than any of us like ever like expected. See, this is like the fourth or fifth time that he is, if not saved the day, has at least like prioritize the lives of his friends compared to his own. So he sends Goody Two Shoe Girls off in a moth. She's trying to get back to the party bus that she was on, and turns out Kai made it into the moth and kills her. And so now the only people left are Kai and are Stan and Zev. And Stan is like, we got to kill Kai. And so he commands the Lexx to blow up the moth. And they think they have succeeded, but it turns out Lexx missed and just didn't say anything about it. So Kai comes back on board. Kai is about to kill them, and then he runs out of proto blood. So I guess we're back to where proto blood actually has stakes in the show.
Yeah. I mean,
I feel like they're immediately going to drop it after this.
It's pretty funny though. It's like, hey, use the proto blood as a plot device. Show us what happens when he actually runs out, because we don't know. We've heard that he's such a big deal, and he just kind of like falls over, like he's out of batteries,
in place, and then like just kind of tips over and lays on the ground. So they put him back in his cryopod and pump him full of proto blood again. And then he wakes up and like grabs Zev and Kai and like very aggressively tells them, "Be careful how you wake me up." And status quo is maintained once again. Everyone that isn't the main crew is dead.
Yeah. So I found a GIF of the toilets. You can't maybe make this out in this quality or whatever, but so the toilet is this like bio orifice thing. This guy on the left is sitting on the toilet, and there's like a tongue that comes out that takes care of you bidet style. And here we have slasher villain Kai rising up out of the other toilet in the next stall over. So it's very funny, and it's like a practical effect when you see it and stuff. There was a good moment in this episode right after they think that they have shot Kai out of the sky, which they felt they had to do in that moment. Like, it's life or death. We got to take care of this. And then they like realize what they've done. And it's kind of, they have this heavy moment between Zev and Stan, where they're sitting there like, oh man, we just killed our bro. This sucks. And it turns out he's not dead, of course, but that was kind of a dramatic moment in an otherwise goofy episode. And I like I think there's little wisps of a story that the kids are telling about, like a slasher in the woods in the place that they were heading to or something. And that kind of works its way into what Kai becomes. Because when Kai's walking around like a slasher villain, he's making Chucky jokes at the people before he kills them and doing goofy things and like a crappy 80s slasher villain. So it's kind of funny to make. I mean, once again, we have our episode of the week where we just do something goofy. Hey, what if Kai was a slasher villain? And I thought it worked out pretty well. Sprackles, did you like this one?
I didn't not like it, but one of my
accept
least
that.
favorites so far.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's not bad. It just something about it didn't work for me.
I liked Kai. I forget. God, I'm embarrassed. I forget the guy's name. Brian Downey, or is that Stan? He has the opportunity to act differently because Kai's kind of this, stoic, robotic kind of figure, but here he's got an opportunity to act differently. So I thought that was kind of cool. One thing I noticed, so he runs out of proto blood and falls over, right? And then they're like, "Oh man, we gotta take care of Kai." They put him back in his little.
Fixed his hair.
That's exactly where I was going, Steve. That's exactly what I was gonna say. It was like, who fixed his hair? Because Kai's got this signature goofball, the signature bouffant, pompadour, whatever it is, right? But someone fixed his hair when they put him back in the crowd. Do you think like Zev like did his hair for him and put up in a scrunchie and gave him his man bun back? Because it was totally down when he was slasher villain everybody.
Maybe it fixes itself because you can reattach his head.
That's true.
Maybe once the bad persona has left his body,
I made
the hair just.
But yeah, I made that exact comment to my wife when we were watching the show. I was like, who redid that hair? Because it's kind of elaborate. Like I don't know from doing hair, but like that'd be hard to do, right? There's got to be like a scrunchie in there somewhere. I don't know. But yeah, but they fixed his hair for him.
It's a wig, right? Like that's not real.
No, I can't be his real hair.
Yeah.
I love seeing him emote and just be crazy.
Yeah.
Like anytime Kai gets to act out of character, it's awesome.
I thought the yellow eyes were cool. I mean,
yeah, the green eyes. When he's in the moth, he's killed the goody two shoes girl and he's flying back. And like Stan is like, wait a minute, let's zoom in, and he zooms in, and so you see her legs sticking up in the air.
Yeah.
And Kai is just like aggressively and menacingly singing the Brunnen G song.
Yeah, that was great too.
Awesome.
That was cool.
I like this. I think this episode would be better if it didn't follow 791, because 791 is just amazing.
Yeah, they are a weird pair.
I feel like no matter what you watched after 791, there is going to be an element of...
Or even if you just flipped them, if we watched this one first and then 791, maybe you'd look back on this one more fondly. Right? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I like this one, but it's no 791.
Yeah. I'd agree. I'll echo that. Like 791 is just kind of really good, and this one's just fine. Sprackles, I wanted to ask you. So the beginning, the misadventure that the young people have is that they're like, oh man, we can't be arsed to wait 2 days. We want to just wake up and be at the party, right? And so it's basically they set their alarm and overslept. Only like. It went really, really wrong. It's not like, missing a morning meeting at work. It's like way worse. So would you, I've thought about this before. There was that TV show recently about the people who, they go into some building and work all day and then they leave the building.
Oh, Severance.
Yeah. Would you ever be interested in, if you had some sort of button that you could press that would just skip time forward for you so that you could skip over, say, your work day or whatever, and you would have, let's say the criteria is that you have full confidence that nothing is going to go wrong during the time skip. Like you're going to perform perfectly fine at your job or at you have to go take some mandatory training or something that's going to be boring. Maybe you're going to go to the gym and work out. Like you're 100% confident that it's going to go perfectly fine, as if you were full aware and in full control of your faculties, but you just won't notice. You'll just like skip past it and be like, okay, now it's time for my free time where I can play video games or watch TV. Would you ever hit the button?
No.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I would either, but I'm tempted sometimes when I'm like sitting around particularly when I'm taking like mandatory training or something that's super boring. I'm like, oh, this is horrible. What if I could just skip past it and like you would just burn time out of your life? You would never get it back, but you would just skip past something really boring. Steve, would you ever hit the button?
Absolutely not. And I'm just watching Sprackles just like disappear and reappear in the call. So
that's funny. He's hitting the button. He's like, this is so tedious. I don't want to talk about it anymore. He's mashing the button.
There's this shitty movie called Paycheck with I think Ben. Is it
Oh
Ben
yeah,
Affleck?
yeah.
They reminds me of that where it's like, you go and work on some classified project for a year.
Oh
and
yeah.
After a year, your memory will be erased. So like from your perspective, just you lost a year of your life, but you get paid like millions of dollars for giving up that year.
Yeah.
I mean, consider that, but just like a daily like lose time button. Nah,
I think I'd get addicted to it really fast, and before I knew it, I'd be like 95 on my deathbed, and like, what happened?
Click with Adam Sandler, that depressing ass movie.
Yeah, that's where I thought you were going to go with that.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, it's for an Adam Sandler movie, it's pretty good.
It's the same premise. He gets a remote control that lets him fast forward through his life.
And
he has regrets at the end.
Okay,
spoiler, you don't need to watch that movie now.
Okay, very good.
It's a kid's story. You can read it in a book in about 10 seconds if you want to.
Okay, right on. All right, so that's $7.91 and
no Mantrid again.
No Mantrid. Yeah, we've been a few episodes
now.
Mantrid. Yeah, because the start of the season, I was like, oh yeah, this happens at the end of every episode. We see these arms, but actually, that's not true. We had a few in a row here where we haven't seen the Mantrid arms. So you think are we back to the Mantrid arms next episode, Sprackles? What do you think?
Well, I think they're blowing everything up as they leave, and so there's nothing for that arms to go
get.
Too. So maybe that's what it is.
They do kind of leave a wake of destruction in their path. It's like it's very indifferent. It's a cold and indifferent world that Lexx takes place in. Both the world itself and Stan and Zev, they'll just like, yeah, okay, blow it up, whatever. So it's funny. It's funny. Okay, so next week I haven't looked ahead, but continuing the bangers. I mean, when are we going to hit one where we're just like, I really didn't like it? And I feel like I'm going to be honest. If I see one, I'm thinking ahead. I don't know how much Steve or Sprackles does or doesn't know about season 3. Season 3 is kind of like that. Season 3 might be a little bit of a slog, so we'll see what happens when we get there. But so far, so good. I'm still humming along here.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Season 3, it's so interesting. It's such a cool premise, and then depending on whether you like it or not, it's awesome. Or
I like where it ends up.
Yeah.
I won't spoil anything, of course. But
yep.
But this has been the Lexxorcists, episode 9, season 2, episodes 9 and 10. That's a lot to keep track of. Nobody audit me on that. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.